Hi everyone, welcome to March is So Fun. I'm Lisa and I'm excited to be here with you and tell you about some of the fun projects I have for you this month. So let's jump right in. The first project is a really darling thing that would make a fabulous baby gift if you are going to a baby shower or have someone that you care about that has a baby. It's this cute little hedgehog and hare sensory toy pattern, and the pattern includes these baby safe silicone rings that have lots of like texture on them, and you know, they feel really nice. Babies like that kind of stuff to chew on. So the first one has these cute little bunny ears, and I made them out of Minky, and it doesn't take very much, so I actually used scraps of Minky from other projects that I've done. It's a great way to utilize your resource center of all those things that you have saved. So 2 cute little bunny ears that just loop over this ring. And then the other one is this darling little hedgehog where you just do different kinds of little ribbon loops for them to grab and chew on. And she is like really soft and cute and darling. One of the options that I did not do, but they tell you can do, is you can line the either the bunny ears or the hedgehog with that crinkly fabric that is in some baby toys, so when they smush it up, it makes that sound. And I chose not to do that, but you could easily do that, and they give you instructions for doing that. And they also have a fun little tip. If you don't have some of that crinkly stuff, in the pattern, they tell you that you can use the inside bag from a cereal box. So just wipe it clean, cut it to fit what you need, and that will also serve the purpose of those cute little crinklies in here. But this is darling, made up really quick and easy, and like I said, will make a fabulous gift. Okay, you guys. This is a brand new product that is super hot right now. And we were lucky enough to get some. They're like sold out everywhere because I think that they did not anticipate how big of a hit this would be. And the first run of production was just like snapped up and gone. And so now they're trying to catch up. But we have these for you guys. And this is called the Glow Ruler. And it comes in this little box that you can keep to store it in. And it's just such a cool idea. It's one of those ideas where you look at it and you're like, why didn't I think of that? Why didn't I think of that? So it is this little 6 by 6 inch ruler. And I don't know if you can see it like against my shirt. It has a power button down here at the bottom, and it is all the lines on the ruler light up with little LED lights. So it comes with a little USB charger, so on the side it plugs in right there, and then you can just plug it into any USB to charge it. But the battery lasts a really, really long time. And what makes this such a genius product is that it enables you to square up blocks that are up to 6 inches square really, really easily, because you can line it up perfectly on the lines, because you can see the lines no matter what color fabric you're working on. You can see these glowing lines. And I don't know about you, but I find that as I don't want to say get older, as I gain more life experience, maybe some of you also are gaining life experience along with me, what I'm finding with reading and sewing and things like that is that light really matters. Like, I'm finding it difficult now when I go to a restaurant. If it's too dark, I can't hardly read the menu. Light is really, really important, and this really, really helps with that. The other thing this is really great for is any kind of fussy cutting. So if you want to feature a specific design in a block that you're doing or in a particular piece, because these glowing lines show you exactly where that's lined up, it makes it really, really easy to do. I just think this is such a genius little idea. And like I said, they brought them into the quilt market and they were just gone. They were just gone. And the Carolina Moore, who she has her YouTube channel and all of her stuff, but she talks about it on her website. She has a great little tutorial where she shows you all kinds of things you can do with this light up glow ruler. And they were really caught off guard with how incredibly popular these are. So we kind of got in on the ground floor. We ordered a whole bunch of them and we have these available for you guys. And they're just really, really awesome. They make a huge difference. So I'm hoping that you guys can pick those up. You will like them. All right. As you know, this year, our kind of theme for the year is tried and true. And so we're bringing back patterns and notions that maybe we have featured before in So Fun in the past that we have found we use over and over and over and over again and go to continuously. So I'm going to show you one of my tried and trues this month. So it's this Bianni pattern called the Catch All Caddy 2.0. So this was featured maybe in Mallory's very first So Fun she ever did about 8 years ago. And it was the original Catch All Caddy. They made a few updates to the pattern and re-released it as 2.0. So this is such a cool, versatile Bianni pattern that we brought it back as a tried and true. So I'm going to show you some of the really awesome features of this pattern. So it's this cool little tote that you can use to store any kind of supplies like desk supplies, crafting supplies, sewing supplies. It has very sturdy padded carrying handles that are attached with rectangle rings, and we have those in a couple colors for you guys. The handles have soft and stable in this part, and then they're folded over and sewn together, so they're nice and padded, so even if this is heavy, it will not bother you. It has 3 pockets on the outside on this side and 2 pockets on the outside on this side. On this end, there's a big slip pocket and also a zippered pocket. On this side, there's a slip pocket. But the cool part about this tote is on the inside, it has these beveled dividers. They're not pockets. They're not sewn down on the bottom. So what they are is they have these sewn in expandable sides. So for example, if you want to put some patterns or books, I think that this is big enough to put a water bottle in here if you're carrying it. And because they aren't sewn down on the bottom, they expand to hold whatever you want to hold, but when they're not in use, they just fold up flat against the sides of the tote. And they have there's 2 on this side and 3 on this side that are different sizes. But these bevel dividers are really a genius design element. Now, you know we have done lots of Bianni patterns because they turn out fabulous and they just are so useful. She has so many useful things that she does with her cool patterns. But the thing with Bianni patterns, and this is what I always tell people, they are not hard, but they are complicated. But her directions are so good that if you follow the directions, anybody can do her patterns. She also includes in almost all of her patterns, this one is the same. When you buy the pattern, inside is a code to get the free add-on videos that show you a video of her doing all the steps for this bag so that it makes it really easy to follow along. Now, I find the most challenging part of any biannual pattern for me is doing the binding on the exterior of whatever the bag is, where almost all of her patterns feature this, where the seams, the raw edge seams are bound in binding. And that, I think, has always been the most difficult part for me, and I know I'm not alone in that. It's really a challenge to do that and get it to look the way you need it to look. And I still, even after all the ones that I've made, sometimes my binding looks really, really good, and sometimes I'm not as happy with it. But I did come across online a biannual binding hack. And if you just Google biannual binding hack, a YouTube video comes right up that gives you the idea. And I'm going to tell you what it is. Usually they have you sew this strip, this inside strip, to both sides, the front and the back, and then go back and sew the binding on, and then go back and fold the binding over and sew it on. So the hack is that before you sew the bag together, you take the strip that goes all the way around like this, and you go ahead and sew your binding onto that. And it's just a big flat piece. It's just like a big long rectangle. So you're not dealing with any curves. You're not dealing with trying to manhandle the binding around. So you sew the binding on there first, and then you use that really good 1/4 inch stitching that you already stitched the binding down with to attach the strip, the zipper strip, to the front and the back. And the binding's already sewn down. So it really helps you keep nice, even 1/4 inch seam allowances because you're just following along on that stitching. And it's just a lot easier. I'm not going to say that it made it foolproof and easy because it just takes practice. Doing bindings like this just takes practice to get it to look good. But it was a lot easier. So that's kind of a cool little hack that you could try. But this is a tried and true pattern. It makes up really, really great. It has tons of uses, and I think you will like it. Okay, let's talk about pan protectors. This is such a genius idea, and I don't know about you, but I'm always looking for ways to protect like my big glass serving platters and things like that that are stored in the top of my pantry that I only bring out for like holidays or big family events, or like all my nonstick coated pans that are stacked in my, with my pans. I'm always worried about them getting chipped or scratched or broken or things like that. And over the years, I've tried various things. My mom always kept like 3 or 4 paper towels between all of her stuff, which aren't that padded. When I was lining my drawers in my kitchen, for a couple of them, I cut some of the drawer liner and used that in between things. But again, it isn't the perfect solution. But these are really cool. They're called pan protectors. They come in 3 sizes, and I'm going to show you all 3 sizes. So this is the small one, and the pattern is really genius the way they're done like this, so that when you set it in the pan, this could easily fold up the sides of the pan or the skillet. This is the medium one, and then this is the large one. Again, a super useful thing that I think would make a really cool housewarming gift for somebody or a wedding gift for somebody. Really, really useful. What goes inside is this Bosal foam that is double-sided fusible. And I brought in for you guys the Bosal pre-cut table runner foam. So this is long and thin. It's 20 by 50 inches, and it's enough to make all 3 of these with some pieces left over. And so that works really well, and you just fuse the backing fabric and the front fabric to the foam, and then cut out, there's templates included in the pattern, and you cut out your template. It's all fused down, and then you just zigzag all around the edges. And there's a little video on their website that shows you how to zigzag around these really tight interior corners so that they look really nice. But they just make up really, really great. And I used part of the fabrics from this really awesome fat quarter bundle that I brought in for you guys from Moda. It's called Bluish, and it's Zen Chic, and we like her stuff. But it has lots of, there's 30 fat quarters in here, and lots of fun fabrics. And I made several things that you're going to see today from those. But I used those fabrics to make my pan protectors, and the fat quarters were even big enough to do the large size one. So I think these are going to be really great in my kitchen, and I'm going to make more of them because, yeah, they're super useful and very, very awesome. Okay, let's talk about the Pep and Tote. The Pep and Tote is a noodle head pattern, and you all know we love her stuff. I have done so many of her patterns, and they're always really popular. She's just really, really good. Like many of her patterns, she does have a sew-along video series for this one, and it's got a couple different variations, and it just is a great size tote. It works for lots of different uses. So I'll show you the one I made, the variation I made. So I made the one that has a zipper closure, which I'm going to show you here in a sec. She also has an option to do a snap, a magnetic snap closure. But this is a really nice size tote. It has a snap pocket on the front, and it's a nice big pocket. It has leather straps that are both sewn in and have rivets on them. And then it has a drop zipper closure. And I used, of course, I used some of my Zipper by the Yard, my Sally Tomato Zipper by the Yard. And then on the inside, it's really nice and big, and it has two big pockets on the inside, like drop-in pockets, slip pockets. And it's fully lined, of course. I made this out of some very heavyweight waxed canvas that I had ordered. But if you remember, we had that really fabulous, nice, drapey feeling waxed canvas when I did the Fremont tote last November. And we have some of that in again. So if you did not get a chance to get some of that because it was snapped up really quick, I know that some of the stores are now carrying that, and we've got it in a variety of colors that I think that this would lend itself to that really, really well. So I would say this is very much like a confident beginner bag. There wasn't anything particularly hard. If you've never done a drop-in zipper like that, they're surprisingly easy to do. And again, her directions are really good, and her bags make up so beautifully. And I just think, again, can you have too many tote bags of various sizes and uses? I would say the answer is no. No, you cannot have too many. And I think it'd make a great gift, great for yourself. It would make a great travel bag, you know, if you're going somewhere. So very useful, a really cool pattern. All right. Let's talk about some fun notions that I brought in for you guys today. First, I have this really awesome book. If you have a little person that likes books, you might really, really like this. It's called I Had a Favorite Dress. The illustrations are really cool, and it is a picture book about a little girl who had a favorite dress that her mom made for her. And she wore it and wore it and wore it. She talks about how much she wore it and how much she loved it. And then it got worn out. And so her mom said, we can cut this up and make it into a top. And she loved her top, and she wore it and wore it and wore it. And then that got worn out. And her mom said, okay, we can cut this up and we can make it into something else. I don't remember now, like a skirt or a hair bow or other things. And she just talks about how she loved this favorite dress that she wore and wore and wore and wore. And as it got worn out, her mom cut it down more and more and more to make more things for her out of this favorite dress. And so for those of us that love to sew, it just is like this really sort of touching little tribute to how sewing is an act of love that we do for other people. And it's an act of creation that we give to other people. And so it's just a really sweet book. And if you have somebody in your life that would like that, I think it would be really great. And if you are an auntie or a grandparent, it'd also be a great book to have in your home when you have those little ones over there that you could read to them. Let me talk to you a little bit about the Hadley top by Green Line Studios. So we've made quite a few of their patterns before. They're very well drafted patterns with lots of opportunities for variation. This is a very easy fit, easy to wear top, and it has a V-neck option or a crew neck option. And it also has a sleeveless option and a long sleeve option. And we're in that transition season. So I made the long sleeve option, but I made it out of a lightweight fabric. So I used cotton double gauze for this top. And the double gauze has this really great texture, and the texture makes it very, very forgiving. It has lines down the front where you open up the middle center seam and stitch it down, but it's really hard to see that on the double gauze. I finished my inside seams with my serger where I could, and where I could not serge the seams, I used my regular sewing machine where it made sense. So I used both my serger and my regular sewing machine to make this, kind of going back and forth to get the final design the way I wanted it to be. It does have darts in it to give it a little bit of shape, and I wanted my top to be just a little bit longer than in the pattern. And here's a little tip for you guys. If you have a pattern like this where you don't have a picture of somebody wearing it, if you Google the pattern or even look on Instagram and like do hashtag this pattern name and search on Instagram, you can find pictures where people have made this top and are showing you what it looks like on. And so for me, I find that to be a really good way to kind of figure out what kind of adjustments I might like to make to it for myself. And the adjustment that I made for this is I made it a little bit longer. Now this is a top that's a little longer in the back than it is in the front, which I really like that. But I made this just a little bit longer than in the pattern. I took on the pattern, they have lines for lengthening and shortening, and I cut the pattern apart on those lines, and I used Swedish tracing paper to cut a strip of that to tape in between, and I made it about 2 inches longer than what the pattern actually showed because I wanted it just a little bit longer to cover things that I wanted covered. So this made up pretty quickly, and because it is long sleeved, but it's out of this kind of nice lightweight fabric, I think it's going to be perfect for like spring and summer, these sort of transitional times when your arms might get a little cold if it's breezy, but it's still not going to be really heavyweight and be too hot for you. So I really like that. Let's talk about a few more fun notions. This is a really cool set of marking pins that we got in for you guys. And what these pins have is they have numbers 1 through 12, arrows left and right, and then they also have alphabet pins on the other side. So when you are cutting pieces for something you're making, then it's really easier for you to mark the pieces, or if you're making a quilt, mark the stacks of fabric pieces for your quilt and keep track of everything that way. I kind of really like the arrow pins as well, because when you're making a quilt and you're sewing rows of blocks to make the rows of the quilt, sometimes, I have to really think really hard about which blocks I'm sewing next to which blocks and which way it's going. And I don't know about you, but I have made mistakes before when I'm sewing that whole long row of sewing it to the wrong side or the wrong end or something like that, and then getting the row done, or even getting several rows done and looking at it laying there and being like, that one's wrong, that one's not sewn the right way. So with the arrow pins, you can stick that in the top of your stack with the arrow going the way you need to sew, and then that will help remind you that everyone needs to be sewn on that side. So this is just a really handy little set of pins to help you keep track of all your stuff, and it comes in a handy carrying case to keep everything straightened, so that's nice as well. I love gypsy quilter stuff, and we have brought in lots of gypsy quilter things in the past, and these are really cool. They're called Nook and Cranny cleaning tools, and they're little silicone brushes for cleaning out all those little nooks and crannies in your sewing machines and things like that. And the brushes are different shapes and have different little silicone bristles in different shapes on them. And the silicone kind of grabs onto the lint and dust and things like that. They kind of stick to that, so they clean really nicely, and then you can just rinse them under some water, clean it all off, and they're ready to go again. And so these are really handy, and I keep them right in the drawer, the top drawer of my sewing table. Pull them out all the time. I like these a lot. Okay, here's another fun little notion for you guys. This is a little purse light. I don't know if any of you are like me, but some of my purses, especially purses that have a dark lining, if I'm looking in my purse trying to find something, sometimes it's really hard to find what I'm looking for. So this little purse light, it has a cute little quilt block on one side, has a really strong magnet on it. So you could magnetize this to the inside pocket of your purse, and it has a really bright little LED light in it. Then it has also a little red flashing light, and I'm not sure what you would use the red flashing light for. Maybe this could be like a little emergency light as well, but I like that it magnetizes itself, so you can put this somewhere near the top of your purse, and then you always have it handy right there, ready to look through your purse. And it's nice to have with you a bright little handy flashlight. You never know when you're going to need one. So that's a fun little doodad. You guys, we also brought in, these are really cute. These are little woven sew-in labels, and they're soft to the touch, so they shouldn't bother people. But these ones say handmade, and these ones are sewing notions, and they have a measuring tape and a rotary cutter and a little sewing machine, and they're just really cute and fun. And it's just another fun way to personalize the things that you make. It would make a great little addition to anything you're making for somebody else. So those are fun. All right, let me tell you about tried and true items that I have for you guys this month. Is the by Annie stiletto and pressing tool. You guys, I first brought this into Sew Fun several years ago, near the beginning of when I was doing Sew Fun. And it's the by Annie stiletto and pressing tool. And this is an item that I use literally every time I'm at my sewing machine. It lives on the throat of my sewing machine, or if I'm sewing something big enough to knock it, it's right in the front of my sewing machine. It is almost constantly in my hand while I'm sewing. I love this thing so much that about a year ago, I accidentally dropped it. And when I moved my chair back to pick it up, I accidentally rolled the wheel of my chair over the blade and snapped the blade right off. And I went to immediately, like I left my house immediately and went to several different stores before I found another one of these because I had to have it. I absolutely could not wait for it to be ordered from somewhere because I needed it. So let me tell you all the many things I love about this. First off, it's made out of wood. It feels comfortable in my hand and it looks round, but the two sides are kind of flattened, so it's not going to roll away on your table if you set it down. The farthest it can roll is like a little quarter turn until it hits a flat side, and then it stops. It has this angled bottom that is perfect for really quickly finger pressing seams open so that you don't have to leave your sewing machine. So when you're doing something like facings on a blouse and you only have to press open, 2 inches, it's great for that. When you're sewing closed lining in the bottom of a bag and you just need to turn under 4 inches of the seam allowance to sew, it's great for that. It's great for when you're sewing binding ends together and just pressing out that little seam. So anytime you just want to quickly press open some kind of small seam and you don't want to get up and go to your iron, it works really great for that. But the best part about it is the stiletto part. It's quite long and it's very sharp. So there's different kinds of stilettos, and some are more of a blunt end that you use for different things. This one is very sharp, and it is ground. It's a special kind of grinding that they do on it so that it's made out of carbon steel, sand ground point. It has like a texture on it, so it grabs onto the fabric. So like if you're sewing something and the seam is getting a little off, you can put your stiletto in that fabric and easily pull it over back in line where it needs to go, because the stiletto surface is rough and it grabs onto the fabric and holds onto it really easily. So it really helps you maneuver your fabrics around underneath your sewing machine foot. I use it to kind of help mark, like when I'm getting for example, if I'm sewing binding on a quilt and I'm getting close to the corner edge, I can put my stiletto, lean it right up against the edge of the quilt on top of where the binding is, and then I can easily see where the edge of the quilt is. So I don't sew too far before, to make my mitered corner. There's seriously just so many uses for this. If you need to turn over a 1/4 of an inch or 3/8 of an inch or 1/2 an inch, it's really easy to use your stiletto as you're sewing to keep that turned under part going the right way you need it to go. I use this every time I sew. It is tried and true for me, and I will always have one of these on hand when I'm sewing. We have started carrying this really cool line of scissors that Moda is just starting to make scissors. And I have for you guys the dressmaker scissors. They're an 8-inch scissor, and I've been using these for a while now, and they really are pretty great. They have a non-stick Teflon coating on them, and the grip is pretty comfortable. It's a little bit squishy, and they're lightweight. They don't weigh a lot, which is good for my hands. On this top blade, they have a little ruler that measures in increments, which really helps. Like if you're trying to cut something and you're supposed to cut a 1/2 inch in, it really helps you to kind of line up those cuts. Make sure you're not going too far or anything like that. So if you're clipping curves on something or cutting a fringe of some type on something, they're very sharp. They grab onto things really, really nicely, and I have really been pleasantly surprised at how much I have liked these scissors. They have worked really, really well for me. All right, this is really cool, you guys. It's called the Color Card Deck, the Essential Color Card Deck. And one of the questions that I get asked frequently when I do Sew Fun is, how do I choose my fabrics? How do I know what's going to look good together? How do I know what colors I can put together and it's going to work? And part of it is just a lot of life experience, as we already established. I have a lot of life experience, and I come from a very artistic family, and I've taken a lot of art classes, and so I kind of have this background in my head of kind of knowing what is going to look good together. And I've given you guys other tips for that too. Usually if you're looking at a whole line of fabrics, fabric lines are usually designed to work together. And so you can use that as a guide. If you find a fabric you really love, look for what other colors and fabrics are in that line of fabric. And that can help you choose. But this, I think, is going to be super useful for sewing, for decorating your house, for crafting, for your wardrobe, all kinds of things. So it comes with a poster that has a color wheel on it, and it tells you how to use the cards. I'm not going to open up this whole big poster for you because that will be not very good on camera. But you can choose, I don't even know how many cards are in here. Really a lot, as you can see. Really, really a lot. Let's see if it says on here. 200 cards to mix and match. So you can pull out a color. I'm going to set this one this way so that I don't lose my place. And you pull out a color, and then on the back, this one is number 14, Red Violet. On the back, it shows you in the color wheel what colors will coordinate with this. So it tells you what you want, if it's monochromatic, if it's complementary, if it's a split complementary, a triad, analogous. So it will show you how to determine what colors go with what. And it tells you about tint. The poster teaches you about tint and value and things like that. So it's a great little primer, and I can envision myself going to this many, many, many times and using my color deck here. This one is blue-green. So again, you can look and see what colors are analogous, what colors are complementary, what colors you would do if you're trying to go for something that's a little bit monochromatic. So it's a really great little tool to help you work with color, because we all like color in our lives of varying degrees. So, and it comes in a great, very sturdy box that is small. So it's a lot smaller than having a giant color deck. So this is a really, really useful tool. All right, let's talk about quilts, shall we? First, I want to tell you about this really cool book. It's called the Color Block Quilt Making Book. And you know that I like modern quilts, and I was very much drawn to this book. I like the look of the quilts a lot, and there's some really cool things. Now, part of why I brought the color deck for you is at the beginning of this book, they have just a really brief, quick little overview of using color theory. And so this is some great little ideas, and it explains to you different ways to use color theory in your quilts. And so then I thought, okay, this is a great introduction. It's pretty basic, and that's why I brought in the color card deck for you guys. But it talks about complementary colors and triadic colors and things like that. So that really helps you. This book has a bunch of really cool patterns, and I really liked it. So I like this one. It's called the Grand Staircase. And I used this one to make, I used one row of this to make a pillow top. And for this pillow and for the quilt behind me that I'm going to talk about in a second, I used the bluish fat quarter bundle fabrics. So the other thing that I did is, do you guys remember, gosh, I bet it's been a year, when I had that really cool book that talked about how to use all the different decorative stitches on your sewing machine that come preloaded on your sewing machine. So what I did is, in between all the blocks, all the pieces, I chose a decorative stitch to do along the lines of all these. And I really like how this worked out. So that was one little pattern that I did. I also really liked, let's see if I can find it quickly. Oh, I'm sorry, I should have marked this one. This was another, oh, here it is. I liked this desert song quilt. I thought that was really cool. And so what I did is I did that one row of that, and I did on the back of this pillow. So this is a reversible pillow. So you can go this way or it can go this way. And so again, I used the fabrics from my fat quarter bundle, and I did that exact same decorative stitch along all the lines of the pieces. And I think it really adds a little something something to this. It feels like a little bit of texture almost. And because I was doing this as a double-sided pillow, I did not do my normal pillow closure that I like to do, but instead I did just an invisible zipper along the bottom. But I have this one stuffed pretty tight, so the invisible zipper is a little bit stretched out. I probably need to look at a little bit different pillow form in there. All right, so then I made this quilt, which I really like. It's called Sundance. And I like the big blocks in this, like that look of those really big blocks. I am a fan. And so I obviously chose to do the blue, and I chose the different values of the fat quarter bundle, starting with the very lightest and then moving down to the very, very darkest. It's almost black. So at the top, it's almost white, and at the bottom, it's almost black. This was pretty quick to put together because the blocks are so big. But when you are working like this, where you don't have very many seams, it becomes really important to make sure that your seams look good because they're more noticeable. So try as best you can to make sure that your points are good. And, you know, mine are not perfect, but they're pretty darn good. And so do the best job you can to make sure that your points are as good as they can be. Now, when I was getting ready to quilt this, my idea was that I wanted to quilt it like diagonally in straight rows on these pieces, and then in the white I just wanted to go straight lines vertically. But I have gotten to where I really hate spray basting. I feel like it's such a pain, and this is kind of a big quilt, and I didn't want to pin it, and so I just thought, okay, I'm not going to quilt, I'll just quilt it with like wavy lines or something. I'm not going to do that. And then when I was working on quilting it, Tracy said, well, you know, the long arm can baste it for you. So then you can take it to your regular sewing machine and quilt it however you want. And I'm like, no, I didn't know that. So again, like I learned something new about the handy quilter, long arm. And so I just have this quilt basted right now because I just did that like a day and a half ago. And now this week before Sew Fun, I'm going to go back on my regular sewing machine and do the quilting like I wanted to do it. And then I'll just be able to take out the basting stitches, and just basting it on the long arm worked really, really well. It didn't take very long, obviously. And now I have it really secured nicely so that I can go ahead and do the quilting that I want to do on it. So I really like that. And I brought in another cool new notion for you guys that's going to help me with this. Part of the difficulty of doing quilting on your regular sewing machine is manhandling the big parts of the quilt you aren't sewing. So I found this cool new product. It's called, they're quilting clamps. And I brought in the extra large jumbo ones, and it's a box that has 6 of these in it. So you can roll up your quilt that you're not working on, the sides of it, and then put these clamps to hold the rolled up parts to kind of keep it out of your way so that it doesn't get too big for the throat of your machine or like roll off the edge of your table that you're working on. When I am doing a big quilt like this on my regular sewing machine, I do it on my dining room table that's very long, and I put the sewing machine on an end so that as I'm quilting, the quilt can be going like ahead of me and supported by the big table in front of me. But even doing that, it still is difficult to manhandle the big quilt. So I'm hoping that these jumbo quilting clamps will really be a game changer for me when I'm doing that this week. So I know you guys will see this video after I'm already done with Sew Fun, but you can go into one of the stores and see this quilt. I don't know what store it'll be at, but it'll work really great, I think. And I should have known you could do that because the picture on the box shows what looks like machine basted on the quilt that they're working on. And it never even occurred to me to look at that. So, gosh, I learn something new all the time doing Sew Fun. All right, finally, I'll tell you about this really fun quilt. This is an Elizabeth Hartman quilt, and I've made a couple of hers before. They're so darling. Usually quite a bit of work, though, with all of her fun pieced animals. But this one was probably by far the easiest Elizabeth Hartman quilt I've done. The least amount of piecing. So it's called Legendary, and it's a Bigfoot in the forest. Now, my little buddy Ryder, Mallory's oldest, loves Yetis. He's kind of really into Yetis. And so what I decided to do was give this a dark background and do the Bigfoot block in white so that it's a Yeti. So this is my version of Legendary. And the background has like little light gray specks all through it, so it almost looks like snow. And I quilted it, and my goal was to make it look like swirls of snow. And I think it came out pretty well. I used fabric. I did different greens, and I used fabric that I had in my resource center for the trees. And because I wasn't making them all the same, it, you know, if I only had a little bit of a particular green, it didn't matter because I was all, you know, doing it that way. So because I wasn't doing all the trees the exact same fabric, I had to kind of figure out the cutting myself, because obviously it tells you to cut, you know, a whole bunch of these sizes for the trees, whereas I was doing it a little bit differently. But it didn't take that long to put together because I could chain piece all the trees and then put those together. And I backed it in a really luxe Minky, and the quilting even looks cool on the Minky, and he just loves this quilt so much. And so it was fun to put together. It's the perfect size for a lap quilt, and you know, it's got a little bit of a quirky vibe to it, which is really fun. So that is really a fun quilt that didn't take very long, and I hope that some of you will be able to enjoy that. Thanks for being with me here today and watching our So Fun videos. I hope you found something that inspires you, and we'll see you next time.